Praise the Lord, brother. Praise the Lord, sister.
ప్రైజ్ లార్డ్ సిస్టర్, బాగున్నారా?
యా బ్రదర్, బాగున్నాము.
ప్రైజ్ లార్డ్ అక్క, శివక్క.
చంటి, గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్. మీరు బాగున్నారా?
బాగున్నా.
ఇంకా స్టార్ట్ అయినట్లేదా? 8 కి స్టార్ట్ చేస్తారని జాయిన్ అయిపోయాను.
స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం కొంచెం.
ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం. టేక్ కేర్.
Greetings to you all in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I want to welcome you all on behalf of Arise and Shine Fellowship this evening. ఈ యొక్క సాయంకాల సమయమున మనము దేవుని స్తుతిద్దాం, దేవుని ఆరాధిద్దాం. అలాగే మనము ఈ యొక్క సాయంకాల సమయమున మనము ఈ యొక్క COVID-19 నుంచి ఏ విధంగా అవేర్నెస్ అలాగే ప్రికాషన్స్ మనం తీసుకోవాలో అది కూడా నేర్చుకుందాం. మన మధ్యలో డాక్టర్ భాను ఉన్నారు. He is going to give us some suggestions and precautions, alage encourages how we can fight against it, how we can defend, how we can stand against it. Alage మనము ఈ యొక్క సాయంకాల సమయమున మనము ప్రార్థన చేసుకొని ఈ యొక్క సెషన్ ని మొదలు పెట్టుకుందాం. అందరం కళ్ళు మూసుకున్నట్లయితే మనము ప్రార్థన చేసుకుందాం. లెట్స్ ప్రే. మహాపరిశుద్ధుడా, మమ్మల్ని ప్రేమించిన యేసయ్య, నీకే వందనాలు, స్తోత్రాలు నాయన. ఈ యొక్క సాయంకాల సమయంలో మా అందరికీ ఇచ్చిన అవకాశాన్ని బట్టి వందనాలు. మరొక్కసారి తండ్రి ప్రభా, నీ యొక్క పాద సన్నిధి వస్తూ తండ్రి ప్రభా, నిన్ను స్తుతించడానికి, నిన్ను ఆరాధించడానికి మాకు ఇచ్చిన బాధ్యతను బట్టి వందనాలు. అలాగే తండ్రి ప్రభా, యొక్క సమయమున మా యొక్క ప్రియమైన భారతదేశాన్ని జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకుంటూ మాకు ఇచ్చిన యొక్క సమయాన్ని బట్టి వందనాలు. అలాగే తండ్రి నాయన, యొక్క భారతదేశంలో అనేక మంది చాలా ట్రాజడీ సిచ్యువేషన్లో ఉంటుండగా, అనేక మంది ఇబ్బందికరమైన పరిస్థితుల్లో ఉంటుండగా తండ్రి వాళ్ళ గురించి జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకుంటూ, మా దేశాన్ని జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకుంటూ, నాయన దేశ నాయకుల్ని కూడా జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకుంటూ తండ్రి వాళ్ళందరి గురించి మేము ప్రార్థన చేయటకు మాకు ఇచ్చిన యొక్క సమయాన్ని బట్టి వందనాలు. తండ్రి నీ యొక్క గొప్పతనాన్ని, నీ యొక్క నాయన మరొక్కసారి నీ యొక్క రిజరక్షన్ పవర్ని మేము జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకుంటూ తండ్రి నాయన మాకు ఇచ్చిన యొక్క బాధ్యతను బట్టి నిన్ను స్తుతించుటకు తండ్రి మాకు ఇచ్చిన సమయాన్ని బట్టి వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ మా ప్రియుడు మా రక్షకుడైన యేసు నామంలో ఈ యొక్క ప్రార్థన అడిగి వేడుకొంచున్నాం తండ్రి, ఆమెన్. అలాగే ఈ యొక్క సమయమున మనము కొన్ని పాటల ద్వారా యేసుక్రీస్తు ప్రభువాన్ని స్తుతిద్దాం. ఆయన ఏమై ఉన్నాడో మన యొక్క జీవితంలో, అలాగే ఆయన మనకి ఏమైతే ప్రామిస్ చేసి ఉన్నారో, అలాగే ఆయన యొక్క పునరుద్ధానాన్ని, ఆయన యొక్క బట్టి మనము స్తుతిస్తూ ఆయన్ని గణపరుద్దాం. మనము ఒక కొంత సమయము మనము యేసుక్రీస్తు ప్రభువాన్ని స్తుతిద్దాం పాటలతో. I request this time for Brother Kiran, and over to you, Brother Kiran.
Praise God, everyone. Let's all continue to worship. By singing this song, Aao Mike, I request everyone to sing. Though you are on mute, be active in God's presence and let's worship our Lord.
आओ मिलके स्तुति करेंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। आओ मिलके स्तुति करेंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। वो ही राजा, वो मसीहा, मेरे जीवन का सहारा। वो ही राजा, वो मसीहा, मेरे जीवन का सहारा। नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचा देंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचाएंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। आओ मिलके स्तुति करेंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। आओ मिलके स्तुति करेंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। वो ही राजा, वो मसीहा, मेरे जीवन का सहारा। वो ही राजा, वो मसीहा, मेरे जीवन का सहारा। नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचाएंगे, यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे। नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचाएंगे, यीशु यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे जय जय बोलो जय यीशु की जय 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 बोलो जय यीशु की जय 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 बोलो जय जय यीशु की जय 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 बोलो जय यीशु की जय ओ ही राजा ओ मसीहा मेरे जीवन का सहारा नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचा देंगे यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे नाचेंगे गाएंगे धूम मचा देंगे यीशु की गुणगान करेंगे
Praise God. Let's all continue to worship by singing this song. Prabhuva ni కార్యం ఆయన కార్యాలు ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి కదా. That's all.
ప్రభువాని కార్యములు ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి దేవానీదు క్రియలు అద్భుతములై ఉన్నవి. అందరం ప్రభువాని కార్యములు ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి దేవానీదు క్రియలు అద్భుతములై ఉన్నవి. నే పాడేదన్ నే చాటేదన్ నీదు నామము భూమిలో సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా నా జీవితము నీవేనయ్యా సన్నుతించెదము నా యేసయ్యా నా జీవితము నీవేనయ్యా ప్రభువాని కార్యములు ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి దేవానీదు క్రియలు అద్భుతములై ఉన్నవి. భరింపరాని దుఃఖములు ఇహమందు నన్ను చుట్టినా నా పాపము నిమిత్తమై నీదు ప్రాణము పెట్టితివి. భరింపరాని దుఃఖములు ఇహమందు నన్ను చుట్టినా నా పాపము నిమిత్తమై నీదు ప్రాణము పెట్టితివి. నా వేదనంతటిని నాట్యముగా మార్చితివి. నీదు సాక్షిగా ఇలలో జీవింతును సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా నా జీవితము నీకేనయ్యా సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా నాదు జీవితము నీకేనయ్యా.
లోకములో నేనుండగా నీ నిర్మూలమైన సమయములో నూతన వాత్సల్యము చే అనుదినము నడిపితివి. లోకములో నేనుండగా నీ నిర్మూలమైన సమయములో నూతన వాత్సల్యము చే అనుదినము నడిపితివి. నిర్దోషిగా చేయుటకై నీవు దోషివైనావా, నీదు సాక్షిగా ఇలలో జీవింతురు. సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా, నా జీవితము నీకేనయ్యా. ఓ సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా, నాదు జీవితము నీకేనయ్యా. ప్రభువాని కార్యములు ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి, దేవానీదు క్రియలు అద్భుతములైయున్నవి. ప్రభువా ఆశ్చర్యకరమైనవి, దేవానీదు క్రియలు అద్భుతములైయున్నవి. పాడెదన్ నే చాటెదన్ నీదు నామము భువిలో, సన్నుతించెదను నా యేసయ్యా, నాదు జీవితము నీకేనయ్యా.
Let's all continue to worship this song. Crowns.
The hill I cherish, where stood a precious tree, the emblem of salvation, the gift of Calvary. How is it that I profit while he is crucified? Yet as his life was taken, so I was granted mine. My wealth is in the cross, there's nothing more than just to know his love. My heart is set on fire, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. And all my wealth is in the cross. In riches, but I will boast in Jesus and in his name. Christ, and all I count on else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. Oh, and wealth is in the cross. And when I stand in glory, my crown's before. My wealth is in the cross. And when I stand in glory, and when I stand in glory, my crown's before the Lord. Let this be my confession. My wealth is in the cross. My wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know His love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know His love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. And all my wealth is in the cross.
Jesus. My wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want. Yes, Lord. Yes, Jesus. It's all. Once again, my wealth is in the cross.
I will not boast in riches. I have no pride in gold, but I will boast in Jesus and in His name alone. My wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know His love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want. There's His love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now. I counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. And all my wealth is in the cross.
Yes, Jesus. My wealth is in the cross, Lord. సాయంకాల
ఎస్ లార్డ్. అవును తండ్రి.
చిందించిన రక్తం మన మీద చూపించిన ప్రేమను
ప్రేమా నీ అద్భుత ప్రేమ నీవు నా కొరకు బలి అయితివా. ప్రేమై నా శిక్ష నువ్వు మోసి సిలువైతివా యేసయ్యా. ప్రేమా నీ అద్భుత ప్రేమ నీవు నా కొరకు బలి అయితివా. ప్రేమై నా శిక్షను నువ్వు మోసి సిలువైతివా యేసయ్యా. నాకై నువ్వు జన్మించి మార్గము చూపావయ్యా, నీతో సమముగానే చేయుటకై కరుణను నువ్వు చూపించి నన్ను క్షమించితివి. ఘోర పాపినయ్యా యేసయ్యా, నిందను నే మోపిన దూషణనే చేసిన ఉమ్మి దండించిన నీ ప్రేమేలా. ముళ్ళను నే కూర్చిన సిలువను నే యేసిన గుణపమునే కూర్చిన నీ ప్రేమేలా. నా రూపం నా దేహం నా జీవం నా దైవం నీవే, నాకు సర్వం నీవే. నా మార్గం నా సత్యం నా జీవం నా స్నేహం నీవే, నాకు సర్వం నీవే. సిలువను నన్ను తప్పించి శిలగాను మారితివి, ఆ శిక్ష నాదేనయ్యా యేసయ్యా. రక్తమును చిందించి విమోచించితివి, నీలా మార్చితివే యేసయ్యా. నా రూపం నా దేహం నా జీవం నా జీవం నీవే, నాకు సర్వం నీవే. నా మార్గం నా సత్యం నా జీవం నా స్నేహం నీవే, నాకు సర్వం నీవే. సిలువను నన్ను తప్పించి సగగాను మారితివి, ఆ శిక్ష నాదేనయ్యా యేసయ్యా. రక్తమును చిందించి విమోచించితివే, నీలా మార్చితివే యేసయ్యా. అవును కదా, మనకి రావాల్సిన శిక్ష ఆయన మీద వేసుకొని పడకూడని భారాన్ని అనుభవించి మన కోసం అంత ప్రేమ చూపించిన యేసయ్యతో నీ మాటే నా మార్గం, నీ మాటే నా మార్గం, నీ వాక్యం నా ధైర్యం, నీ ప్రేమే నా సాక్ష్యం నీవే. నా లోకం నా స్వాస్థ్యం పరలోకం నీ రాజ్యం స్తుతి స్తోత్రం సంతోషం నీవే, నీతో జీవించేదా నాకై దిగిరావయ్యా, యేసయ్యా రావయ్యా నీవేరా. నిన్నే ఘనపరిచేదా, నిన్ను కీర్తించేదా, నిన్నే పూజించేదా యేసయ్యా. ప్రేమ నీ అద్భుత ప్రేమ, నీవు నా కోరకు బలి అయితివా. ప్రేమై నా శిక్షను మోసి సిలువైతివా యేసయ్యా. నాకైను జన్మించి మార్గము చూపావయ్యా, నీతో సమముగానే చేయుటకై. కరుణను చూపించి నన్ను క్షమించితివి, ఘోర పాపినయ్యా యేసయ్యా. నిందను నే మోపినా, దూషణనే నీ దండించిన నీ ప్రేమేలా. ముళ్ళను నే కూర్చిన, సిలువను నే వేసిన, గుణపమునే కూర్చిన నీ ప్రేమేలా. యేసయ్యా ప్రభా తండ్రి, ఆనాడు తండ్రి ప్రభా నిన్ను గాయపరిచి నీ గాయాన్ని రేపుతూ ప్రభా నిన్ను బాధించిన వారిలో నేను కూడా ఉన్నాను యేసయ్యా. తండ్రి, ప్రతిసారి లోకపు పాపంలో పడిపోయినప్పుడు ప్రభా నీ గాయాన్ని రేపుతూనే ఉన్నాను యేసయ్యా. ఈ సాయంకాల సమయంలో తండ్రి నీ ప్రేమ ఎంత గొప్పదో ప్రపంచమంతా ప్రభా తల్లకిందులైపోతుంటే కేవలం నీ అమూల్యమైన కృపచేత ప్రభా మమ్మల్ని భద్రపరిచి సాయంకాల సమయంలో నీ సన్నిధిలో అడుగుపెట్టే అవకాశాన్ని అందరికి ఇచ్చినందుకు వేలాదిని చెల్లిస్తున్నాను తండ్రి. నీ వాక్యంతో మమ్మల్ని బలపరచండి, స్థిరపరచండి. వస్తున్న ప్రతి శోధన నుంచి తండ్రి జయించే శక్తిని మాకు దయచేయండి. ప్రతి వ్యాధి ప్రభా, ప్రతి రోదన నుంచి మాకు విజయాన్ని చేకూర్చమని కోరుకుంటున్నాను. చేరిన ప్రతి ఒక్కరితో ప్రభా నీ బలాన్ని దయచేసి నడిపించమని కోరుకుంటూ నజరేయుడైన యేసు నామములో ఇచ్చిన ప్రార్థన వేడుకుంటున్నాను.
Amen. Thank you, Amma. Thank you for helping us and leading us in the wonderful worship. Thank you for the worship team. అలాగే మనం ఈ యొక్క సాయంకాల సమయంలో మనము క్విక్ గా 2 కొరింథీయులకు రాసిన పత్రిక, అలాగే మనము ఈ యొక్క ఓల్డ్ టెస్టిమెంట్ లో 2 క్రానికల్స్ మనము ఒక్కసారి చదువుకుందాం. యాక్చువల్లీ ఓల్డ్ టెస్టిమెంట్ లో మనం చూసినట్లయితే 2 క్రానికల్స్ 7:14 ఒక్కసారి మనము చదువుకుందాం. ఇఫ్ మై పీపుల్ who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. ఎంతో చక్కగా దేవుడు మనకి ఈ యొక్క వాక్యాన్ని ఇచ్చాడు. మనము ఈ యొక్క చిన్న వాక్యాన్ని చూసుకున్నట్లయితే మనము దేవుని యొక్క నామాన్ని మనము ఒకసారి జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకున్నట్లయితే, మనము ఎంతో హంబుల్ గా ఉండి అలాగే ప్రార్థన చేసినట్లయితే, ఆయన యొక్క ముఖాన్ని మనము చూడాలని ఆశించినట్లయితే, అలాగే మన యొక్క ప్రతి ఒక్క వికెడ్ వేస్ నుంచి మనము వెనక్కి దూరపరిచి వెళ్దామని, అలాగే మనం కన్ఫెషన్ చేసి మన యొక్క పాపాల నుంచి మనం గనక చేసినట్లయితే, దేవుని యొక్క ప్రేమ ఎంతో గొప్పది. దేవుని యొక్క ప్రేమ ఎంతో గొప్పది. మన పాపాలని, అలాగే మన దేశం యొక్క పాపాలని, మన దేశం యొక్క రెబెలియన్ని, ప్రతి ఒక్కటిని దేవుడు అంత గొప్ప శక్తిమంతు అయినవాడు. అలాగే మనం ఈ యొక్క వాక్యంలో చూసినట్లయితే ఆయన మన పాపాల నుంచే కూడా కాకుండా కూడా ఆయన మనల్ని, మన దేశాన్ని, మన యొక్క ప్రపంచం మొత్తాన్ని కూడా ఆయన హీల్ చేయగల శక్తిమంతుడు. అయితే నువ్వు నేను ఆయనకి ఒబే అయి ఉండాలా. నువ్వు నేను ఆయనకి తప్పనిసరిగా ఫెయిత్ఫుల్ గా ఉన్నట్లయితే ఆయన తప్పనిసరిగా మన యొక్క ప్రార్థనలు, మన యొక్క విన్నపములను ఆయన అంగీకరించి ఆయన మనకి సరైన సమయంలో ఆయన జవాబిస్తాడు. అదే విధంగా మనం చూసాం, అమెరికాలో ఒకప్పుడు ఎంతో క్లిష్టమైన పరిస్థితుల్లో మనం ఎన్నో ప్రార్థనలు చేసుకున్నాం. మనం మన యొక్క పాపాలని మనం కన్ఫెస్ చేసాం. ఇప్పుడు కొంచెం మంచి పరిస్థితిలో ఉన్నాం. దేవుడు మనందరికీ ఈ యొక్క సమయాన్ని ఇచ్చి మనం ఈ విధంగా స్తుతించడానికి ఆయన మనకి ఈ యొక్క అవకాశాన్ని ఇచ్చాడు. అలాగే మనము టైం వేస్ట్ చేయకుండా క్విక్ గా కీర్తనలు 126 ఒక్కసారి చదువుకుందాం. కీర్తనలు 126 సామ్స్ 126 మన మధ్యలో ఉన్న సిస్టర్ కుమారి గారు చదువుతారు.
సియోనుకు తిరిగి వచ్చిన వారిని యెహోవా చెరలో నుండి రప్పించినప్పుడు మనము కలకనిన వారి వలె నుంటిమి. మన నోటి నిండా నవ్వు ఉండెను, మన నాలుక ఆనందగానంతో నిండి ఉండెను. అప్పుడు యెహోవా వీరి కొరకు గొప్ప కార్యములు చేసినని అన్యజనులు చెప్పుకొనిరి. యెహోవా మన కొరకు గొప్ప కార్యములు చేసి ఉన్నాడు, మనము సంతోష భరితులమైతిమి. దక్షిణ దేశంలో ప్రవాహములు పారునట్లుగా యెహోవా చెరపట్టబడిన మా వారిని రప్పించుము. కన్నీళ్లు విడ్చుచు విత్తువారు సంతోషగానముతో పంట కోసెదరు. పిడికెడు విత్తనములు చేతపట్టుకొని ఏడ్చుచు పోవు విత్తువాడు సంతోషగానము చేయుచు పనులు మోసుకొని వచ్చును.
మనము ఈ యొక్క చిన్న వాక్యము చూసినట్లయితే గాడ్ క్యాన్ డూ గ్రేట్ థింగ్స్ అనేది మనం ఈ యొక్క చాప్టర్ లో చూడగలం. అండ్ గాడ్ హ్యాస్ అ పవర్ నాట్ ఓన్లీ టు రిలీజ్ అస్ ఫ్రమ్ అవర్ సిన్స్, బట్ హీ ఆల్సో కెన్ బ్రింగ్ అస్ బ్యాక్ టు హిమ్, టు గాడ్. దేవుడు మన పాపముల నుంచే విడుదల చేస్తాడు. అలాగే పాపము నుంచి విడుదల చేయటమే కూడా కాకుండా ఆయన వైపుకి ఆయన తిప్పుకుంటాడు అనేది మనము ఈ యొక్క చాప్టర్ లో నుంచి మనం తెలుసుకోగలం. మనం చూసినట్లయితే దేవునికి రెస్టోర్ చేసే శక్తి ఉన్నది. మనము ఈ యొక్క చాప్టర్ లో చూసినట్లయితే రెస్టోర్ అవర్ ఫార్చ్యూన్స్ ఓ లార్డ్ లైక్ స్ట్రీమ్స్ ఇన్ ద నెగ్వే అని మనం చదువుతున్నాం. అయితే గాడ్ హ్యాస్ ఎ పవర్ టు రెస్టోర్ బియాండ్ అవర్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్. at the same time, when we look at this remaining parts of this verses, God has a power to build again anything like a forest. If it burns out, he has the ability to bring it back again, and it can grow back again. Alage kuda kakunda at the same time God can heal the broken parts. Alage kuda kakunda at the same time, whenever if we are in any kind of a grief situation, grief condition, it is not the permanent place where we are going to be, and God has an ability to give us a joy. When we read these verses, those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. When we sow in tears for our nation, for our beloved people, definitely God is going to give us a joy. God is going to bring all the sorrowful situations, the tragic situations, and give us a joy. At the same time, when we look at whatever the burden that we carry, it should be carried with sorrow, it should be carried with pain. Then definitely God is going to give us a joy. God is going to make us to be joyful in singing, in praising, and in thanking him, because he has a ability. It is not our ability, it is not our knowledge, it is not our wisdom, but God is able. He can able to bring and restore the things again, and is not only able to bring us from out of our sins, but he has ability to bring our nation back to God. He has an ability to turn all of us towards God. At the same time, and this is a supernatural thing, and you and I has to look towards God for a supernatural miracles. Whenever we can see these things is like whenever we are obedient to him, whenever we are faithful to him. And with that kind of a mindset, let's all of us ask God to heal our nation, to heal our people, and God is able. With that note, I'm going to hand over this time to Dr. Bhanu Prasad Anna, and he is in the midst of us, and he is a doctor and a pharmacist, and he is encouraging a lot of Indians, a lot of people around the world, not only Indians, and he is encouraging and teaching and giving them suggestions and giving them assurance with what are all the knowledge and the wisdom that God gave him. And also he was kind of a proven in so many cases. And I have a brother Roop Kumar, and Anna has helped brother Roop Kumar in several situations, in several ways, and personally in his life. And I will hand over this time to brother Roop Kumar. And God has helped brother Roop Kumar to come out of the COVID-19, not only him, entire his family. And now I will hand over this time to brother Roop Kumar. He will tell a few words about what the situation, what are the things that he went through long back, and Anna has helped him. And after that, brother Roop Kumar is going to introduce Dr. Bhanu Prasad Anna, and then I will hand over this time to brother Roop Kumar, and we'll go from there. Over to you, brother.
Brother, thank you. Good evening, all. అందరికీ వందనాలు క్రీస్తునామాలు. మాట అందరికీ వినపడుతుంది అనుకుంటున్నాను. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. ఫస్ట్ వేవ్ లో కరోనా వచ్చినప్పుడు మేమంతా కూడా మా ఇంట్లో ఆల్మోస్ట్ నలుగురం సఫర్ అయ్యాము. సఫర్ అయినప్పుడు నాకు మన రిసోర్స్ నుండి అన్న నంబర్ నాకు వచ్చినప్పుడు నేను వెంటనే కాల్ చేసినప్పుడు మా బాబుతో మాట్లాడారు అన్న, శ్రావణ్తో మాట్లాడి డోసేజ్ అంతా కూడా చెప్పిన తర్వాత అప్పటికే నేను D3 కొన్ని వాడి నేను కొంచెం కోలుకున్నాను. బాబు, పాప, అలాగే నా భార్య ముగ్గురు కూడా సఫర్ అవుతున్నారు. ముగ్గురికి అన్న డోసేజ్ చెప్పి ఈ D3 గురించి కొంత అవేర్నెస్ ఇచ్చి అన్న మా చేత టాబ్లెట్లు వాడిచ్చారు. సో నిజంగా చెప్పాలంటే మా ఫ్యామిలీ అంతా కూడా మేము సర్వైవ్ అయ్యాం. వాస్తవంగా ఏం జరుగుతుందో అర్థం కాని పరిస్థితి. అలాంటి పరిస్థితిలో రియల్లీ మా కుటుంబానికి అన్నని దేవుడు ఒక రిసోర్స్గా, ఒక రెడీమర్గా మా కోసం ఏర్పాటు చేశాడు. ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలంటే ఇజ్రాయేలీలు తప్పు చేసినప్పుడల్లా దేవుడు వాళ్ళ మీదకి ఒక ఉగ్రతను తీసుకొచ్చాడు. వాళ్ళు మళ్ళా దేవుని వైపు తిరిగి దేవుని వైపు వాళ్ళు రిపెంటెన్స్ చూపించినప్పుడు మనం చదువుకున్న వాక్యం రీతిలో వాళ్ళకి ఒక న్యాయాధిపతిని లేదంటే ఒక ప్రొవిజన్ని ఇచ్చేవాడు అనమాట. ఇప్పుడు వరల్డ్ అంతా సఫర్ అవుతోంది. వరల్డ్ అంతా కూడా ఒక ప్యాథటిక్ సిచ్యుయేషన్లోకి దిగజారిపోతా ఉంది. ఈవెన్ సెకండ్ వేవ్ ఇండియాని టచ్ చేస్తా ఉన్నప్పుడు చాలా దారుణమైనటువంటి పరిస్థితిలో ఉంది. అలాంటి కండిషన్లో ఒక ప్రొవిజన్ని అన్న ద్వారా దేవుడు మనకి ఏర్పాటు చేశాడు. ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలంటే రియల్లీ చాలా మంది అన్న చెప్పినటువంటి మెడికేషన్ ద్వారా కోలుకుంటా ఉన్నారు. ఇంకా ఆ వర్క్ జరుగుతూ ఉంది. ఇండియాలో ఒక టీంని అన్న ఏర్పాటు చేశారు. ఆ టీం ద్వారా హీఈస్ ఆపరేటింగ్ టు సేవ్ ద పీపుల్, సేవ్ దేర్ లైఫ్స్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ. సో దాదాపుగా ఒక 30 మెంబర్స్ దాకా ఉన్నారు. దట్ మీన్స్ ఈ ఆధునిక కాలంలో ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలి అంటే అన్న ద్వారా దేవుడు ప్రపంచానికి అందరికీ కూడా ఒక సదుపాయాన్ని, ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఫర్ తెలుగు పీపుల్, ఒక ప్రొవిజన్ని దేవుడు ఏర్పాటు చేశాడని నేను ఖచ్చితంగా చెప్పగలను. ఇది నా పర్సనల్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్. నిన్ననే అన్న చెప్పినటువంటి ట్రీట్మెంట్ నేను ఒక పాస్టర్ గారికి, కంచికచర్లలో ఉన్నటువంటి పాస్టర్ గారికి నేను చెప్తా ఉన్నాను. దాని ద్వారా హీ కేమ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ సమ్హౌ, హీ కొంతవరకు కోలుకున్నాడు. ఇంకా ఈజ్ ఆన్ ట్రీట్మెంట్. సో నేను చెప్తా ఉన్నాను ఆయనకి, ఆయన D3 సిస్టమేటిక్గా అన్న చెప్పినటువంటి రీతిలో, ఎందుకంటే ఎనార్మస్ కాల్స్ వస్తూ ఉన్నాయి అన్నకి, అందరినీ మీట్ అవ్వలేని పరిస్థితి. కాబట్టి తన తరపున ఎంతో కొంతమంది పని చేయాలనేటువంటి ఉద్దేశంతో ఇక్కడ ఒక టీంని ఏర్పాటు చేశారు. సో తద్వారా ఇక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి పీపుల్కి రియల్లీ ఇట్ ఈస్ హెల్ప్ఫుల్. అన్న ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ ద్వారా సీరియస్ కండిషన్ ఏదైనా వస్తే వెంటనే అన్న దృష్టికి తీసుకెళ్తా ఉన్నాం. సో దట్స్ హౌ గాడ్ మేడ్ భాను ప్రసాద్ అన్న వండర్ఫుల్ రిసోర్స్ ఫర్ సేవింగ్ లైఫ్స్ అన్న. సో నేను ఖచ్చితంగా చెప్పగలను. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ అన్నని ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయడానికి నాకు ఇచ్చిన అవకాశాన్ని బట్టి. అయితే అన్న న్యూయార్క్లో ఉంటూ ఉన్నారు. అన్నకి 6 పిల్లలు. తర్వాత తన 16వ ఏట అన్న ప్రభువుని నమ్ముకున్నారు. అన్న ఫార్మసిస్ట్గా అందులో పిహెచ్డి చేసి అక్కడ న్యూయార్క్లో సెటిల్ అయ్యారు. న్యూ హైడ్ పార్క్లో ఉంటూ ఉన్నారు. హీఈస్ రిసైడింగ్ దేర్. అయితే లాంగ్ ఐలాండ్లో హీఈస్ రన్నింగ్ 3 pharmacies. బాప్టిస్ట్ చర్చ్ ఎల్డర్గా కూడా ఉన్నారు. అండ్ హీఈస్ వెరీ మచ్ ప్యాషనేట్ in saving physical and spiritual lives. So very much concerned. చాలా మంది స్పిరిచువల్ గా కూడా ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ అన్న ద్వారా పొందినటువంటి వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. సో ఫిజికల్ గా ఇప్పుడున్నటువంటి పాండమిక్ సిచ్యుయేషన్ లో మెనీ ఆర్ గెటింగ్ సేవ్డ్ బై హిస్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్. సో అన్న ఈ సమయంలో మన మధ్యలో ఉండటం చాలా సంతోషకరమైనటువంటి విషయం. అన్న వీఆర్ glad to have you, especially in this pandemic situation here at Rise and Shine Ministries. Thank you so much, Anna. We hand over time for you right now.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you, Rup Kumar garu. Thank you, Pastor John Jay Prakash garu. Yeah. దేవుని కృపను బట్టి ఇంతవరకు తెలుగులో మాట్లాడచ్చా, ఇంగ్లీష్ లో
మాట్లాడచ్చు అన్న? యూ కెన్ ప్రొసీడ్ ఎనీథింగ్ అన్న.
ఓకే
అన్న ఇంగ్లీష్ అయితే ప్రిఫరబుల్ అన్న.
Okay, great, wonderful. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for this invitation. Really, it is such a blessing to be among the saints of the Lord. And as you are worshiping God, I've been here listening and worshiping along with you. And the two portions of the scripture Pastor dealt with are quite appropriate for this time. Okay. It is God who has to heal our land. It is God who has to provide healing. There is healing comes from His hand, and there is nothing else at this point. You know, if we look at the surroundings, if we look at what is transpiring in India, it is nothing short of beyond saddening, beyond just heartbreaking, because there is no family that has not been touched with by this pandemic, by this disaster that is unfolding right in front of our eyes. Okay, today, according to official records, it is about 393,000 new infections, new cases. That is according to official count, and 3,700 almost deaths. So last year by this time, this corona virus was just it was not even a thing in India. And everybody was thinking that we have gotten this under control. And little did we know, with just 1 year from last year, we will be in this situation. That is, nobody could have imagined that we could have ended up in such dire straits in India. So first of all, to really understand what this disease and how to even, I think all of us have relatives in India, and we are, fearful also that any of these people, any of our family members they may be exposed to this, and how do we deal with such an eventuality? That is a cause for concern among many of us, and that is the reason why your pastor has asked me to talk to all of you. And is there a solution for this? Yeah, there is a solution for this. Is this dangerous? Absolutely, it is dangerous. Do many who get infected come out of this without any problem? Yes, that is so. But the problem is the people, the small number of people, small percentage of people who get infected with this, they suffer very serious consequences. And if we have any hope of rescuing them, if we have any hope, if we have to have any solution that we can apply, if we have to get at any solution, we have to understand what this disease is all about. Okay? And as we all know, we've been told till we are blue in the face, this is coronavirus, and this is a virus that is deadly, and and we can only avoid it by wearing masks and double masks, or keeping social distancing, or all those things are there. Absolutely, those things do work to a certain extent. But the thing is, what we need to be concentrating on is, why is this affecting, is about 3 to 5% of the people more adversely than it is affecting 95% of the populations. And also, if we look at how this is affecting various nations, okay, it has affected US differently than it has affected Europe. And it has affected India differently. And second time around, it is affecting India differently than it has affected anywhere else in the world. So this disease seems to have a characteristic expression based on the geographic location. Okay, and if you look at some countries like for instance, African countries, the incidence has been very low, and in European countries, the incidence has been very high, and also in the second wave, the incidence in India is just beyond anybody's imagination. Nobody could have thought this, this would happen in India. So why is this happening? What is this disease? Yes, it is caused by a virus that is the replication potential of which is just beyond imagination, because this virus, as a virus enters our bodies, it has to replicate. So any virus, it has to replicate. And virus and bacteria are different in that bacteria can replicate on its own, but virus has to access the replication or the cellular transcription mechanisms of our own body, of our own cells, so to multiply and to cause that is how it replicates. Okay, somehow it accesses the cell and it enters the cell and it hijacks the cellular transcription mechanisms. These transcription mechanisms are there to create various proteins that are needed by our body. So what happens? So this virus, it just goes in, it unfolds itself, and it injects the RNA into the cell, and that RNA is read by the ribosomes and various other mechanisms in the body, and then it starts manufacturing its own instead of manufacturing the proteins that are needed for our survival, it starts manufacturing the viral proteins. Okay, that is how the virus replicates in the cell. And what we need to know here is this replication rate is different. It could be different in different people based on how people's constitution is and how people's nutritional status is and how people's responses are to this. The replication can vary. The replication potential can vary. But in some studies, we have known that this virus can replicate 3 to 4 orders of magnitude higher than any other virus that we have come across. So during the first 3 or 4 days of the infection, 5 days of infection, what this does is this creates a massive viral load on the system. And now what happens is, this virus itself is not, I spoke to many during many talks, that virus is not fatal to our body, but what ends up being fatal is our own immune system. Okay, in these few minutes, what I'd like to show you is, I'd like to just enlighten you to consider these wonderful things that are in our body. Okay, how is this virus is affecting us, impacting us? If we know this, if we know all these things that I'm going to tell you, okay, we would have been far along the way in finding a true solution for this. Once we understand this, once we understand how our immune system works and how our body works and how the cellular replication mechanisms work in our body, we would have been much further along in understanding this, and consequently, in much further along in finding a solution for this for this pandemic. So, in every cell, there is a receptor called a nuclear receptor. In the nucleus of the cell, there is a receptor called an vitamin D receptor. This vitamin D receptor is, once it is occupied by vitamin D, and if vitamin D is present in sufficient amounts, what happens is this vitamin D receptor and vitamin D, this complement, they both can direct many aspects of cellular function in a way that is beneficial for us, in a way that is good for us, in a way that God intended our body to work. Okay. See, the thing is, most of the people, in most of oh, beautiful. Okay, so this is the, you have well, thank you so much for putting this up. Okay, this is how the viral replication and it happens, and it triggers this immune response. Okay, so during this viral replication, that vitamin D receptor that is inside the cell. Okay, if there is enough, let's say enough levels and proper levels of vitamin D in our system, what happens is these replication, the transcription mechanisms cannot be hijacked by a virus or any pathogen. Okay, so vitamin D receptor, if it is empty, if it is not functioning, if it is not occupied, or if there are no proper amount of vitamin D present in our body, this vitamin D receptor can be, and all the mechanisms that are controlled by vitamin D receptor can be hijacked. And that is how, in those people who are vitamin D deficient, the replication can go rampant. And that's what happens during the first 5 days, 6 days, or up to of this disease in our as the virus enters into our body. And that is where about 5th, 6th, 7th day, this slowly the immune system gets triggered. In the immune system, we have about two parts of the immune system. One is innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. The innate immunity, in the innate immunity, what we have is, this is the first line of defense against any invasion by a pathogen. Okay, and let's look at, so in the first phase, in the viral replication, what we have seen is, if you have enough vitamin D levels in our body, that viral replication can be suppressed. Okay, so the resultant viral load is a lot less than what it could otherwise be. So that is one takeaway. So vitamin D is important in that phase. Okay, in innate immunity, you have several cells in making this function properly. See, all these cells have vitamin D receptor in their nucleus as well. And when vitamin D is present in sufficient quantities, that upregulates this defense system. Where it upregulates means, upregulation means it creates more and more components and compounds like beta defensins and cathelicidins. And beta defensins are, the naturally antiviral and antipathogenic compounds which latch onto the viral shell, and it inactivates the virus. Okay? So this is in the innate immunity. This is the first line of defense. So the takeaway here is, vitamin D levels are important. Having vitamin D in sufficient quantities is important in the innate immunity. Without proper vitamin D levels, innate immunity cannot function properly. So the first line of defense will break down if we do not have enough vitamin D levels. And then comes the second thing. The second part of the immune system is the adaptive immunity. This is the specific immunity. The first one is innate immunity, is non-specific immunity, and adaptive immunity is the specific immunity, where here there are two branches in the specific immunity also. The specific immunity is, it's what happens is here there is so much wonderful orchestration of things that are going on. So the pathogen has to be recognized. Once the pathogen is recognized, that has to trigger several mechanisms by which this pathogen can be inactivated, and also eventually all this, there is something called APC complex, and all the mechanisms work in concert to activate the B cells. And once the B cell activation happens, the antibodies will be generated. So now the goal is to take the patient from here, point A, the day 1 of the infection, okay, and from to almost to the day 15 or 20, 16, 20, 25, whatever, until the antibodies are generated, okay. And this path is how the patient progresses through this path is determined by how our immune system functions, okay. And here it says immune dysregulation. In the second phase of the immune system, what happens is this, okay. If here also vitamin D plays an extremely important role, okay. If we have sufficient levels of vitamin D, there are two branches in this adaptive immune system also. One is Th1 branch and the other one is Th2 branch, okay. And Th1 branch is inflammatory, and you don't need to know all this, but just get a sense of where I'm going with this, okay. Th1 branch is inflammatory, and it generates a lot of cytokines called inflammatory cytokines, and that is where this IL-6 and TNF alpha, IL-2, IL-1, all these are inflammatory cytokines. They are the feature of this adaptive immune system, the Th1 branch, okay. So now if vitamin D is present in proper levels, okay, if any individual has proper levels of vitamin D, these immune reactions, they shift the whole thing towards the whole reaction towards Th2 branch, which is anti-inflammatory. So predictably and repeatably, proper administration of vitamin D, okay, even if the person is deficient in vitamin D, we can predictably shift these reactions towards Th2 branch, and thereby reducing this IL-6. IL-6 is one of the featured cytokines in this disease. And as IL-6 keeps going up on the 7th day, 8th day, 10th day, 12th day of this infection, from usually the 10th day, from the 10th day, of infection, this IL-6 keeps going up. And once it starts going, as IL-6 keeps going up, the pulse rate keeps going up, and the saturations, oxygen concentration. We all know a pulse oximeter and oxygen levels in the blood, they start coming down. And that is when the real trouble can hit. Okay, that is when the real trouble can happen. That is when people have the shortness of breath. Okay, and see, if we miss all the day 1 to the day 10, day 12, 13, okay, all this progression, if we miss, okay, and a person can end up in trouble in no time. And that is where the lung involvement comes in. Okay, as the IL-6 goes up, the lung damage happens very quickly, and it results in acute lung injury and depressed saturations. And if we do not pay attention to this, what is going on inside, this is called, these are cytokines. IL-6 is a cytokine. Okay, this is called a cytokine storm. Okay, and when a person is in a cytokine storm, the saturations keep on going down ever so quickly. Okay, within a day or two, saturations can go from almost 99% to 40-50%. The person is in trouble in no time at all. Okay? So what have we learned so far? When vitamin D is important in preventing viral replication, suppressing viral replication. Vitamin D is important in making that first line of defense, the innate immune system function properly as it is supposed to. And the same, and vitamin D is important in making this adaptive immune system function the way it is supposed to. Okay, and vitamin D is a miraculous substance. Not only modulates our immune system, it modulates the genetic expression as well, and it modulates something called renin-angiotensin system. See, as the pulse keeps going up and up and up, and that is the RAS is being driven into overdrive. And if we apply proper amounts of vitamin D, we can downregulate renin and thereby control this, ever increasing pulse rates. Okay, and see, the thing is, we all have loved ones in India, and we need to let them know that this is the case. It is not about the virus. It is not the virus that is killing us. It is our own immune system, immune dysregulation. That is dysfunctional immune system. That is what the problem is. Okay, and once we understand this, my dear friends, there is, I think we would have gone a long way in solving this puzzle, this pandemic. Okay, and there are other ways that this vitamin D can enhance our well-being through this pandemic. It stabilizes the endothelium of the circulatory system in the blood vessels. There is a thin layer inside called endothelium, and that endothelium, the tight junction integrity is improved by if we have proper vitamin D levels. And once the tight junction integrity is improved, it prevents this overactive immune system from damaging this very sensitive layer, the endothelial layer. And that is when these blood clots come from. So it can prevent blood clots. It can. So these are, I've given you 5 different ways in which vitamin D helps us. Okay? And the 6th way is it stabilizes the respiratory epithelium. Okay? And once we start applying vitamin D or giving vitamin D in proper doses to people, the lung function improves and lungs are protected. All the gas exchange mechanism is protected, so that so much so that as we give the first bolus dose of vitamin D, we can see saturations come up almost 10 to 10 points almost. In some cases, even 15 points also. Okay, and this is almost 6 different ways vitamin D works. Then why are we not hearing more about this? Because for the past 30, 40, 50, almost 50, 60 years, we have been concentrating on, vitamin D levels are recommended daily allowance is 400 units. That 400 units was formulated or calculated based on the minimum required vitamin D supplementation to prevent rickets. Okay, and since that time, about 50 years ago, or 50, 60 years ago, this fact was found out. And since that time, we have learned so much, okay, through medical research of the importance of vitamin D for proper immune function and proper function of the human body. Okay, and all that is completely ignored in the modern times. Okay, and if vitamin D is so important, why are the populations so deficient in vitamin D? It is because we have gotten away from God's design for our nutrition and for our bodies. Okay, and there is so many chemicals in our foods, and also that increases the chemical stress on our bodies. And also, see what is vitamin D? How is vitamin D made in our bodies? Okay, when the cholesterol, which has to be brought to the skin when it is exposed to sun, ultraviolet rays, UV B rays. Okay, that is what causes this cholesterol to be transformed into inactive form of vitamin D, and that has to be activated by different mechanisms in our body. So we have been fighting this fight against cholesterol for the past, I don't know, 6 decades. And we've been avoiding all the foods that are rich in nutrients. So, brothers and sisters, there are consequences to the way we live. So I just want to raise these questions so you can, you can start thinking about these things. Okay, and if we ignore the most important area of our lives, that is proper nutrition, there are consequences, and we are seeing them in our societies. Okay? In India, that is the disaster that is unfolding has its roots in populations ignoring what proper diet is and proper nutrition is for so long. Okay, there are consequences. Okay, now that we are here, what do we do? Okay, how can we protect our own our loved ones? Okay, and fortunately, okay, vitamin D can be corrected very quickly, and vitamin D is available. It's a very inexpensive supplement. It is available everywhere in India, and it is available in 60,000 unit capsules in India. And ever since the start of this pandemic, okay, every family has been personally touched by this pandemic. Okay, and so was ours. And initially, that we faced that dilemma as well. Okay? And all our employees, we started supplementing with vitamin D back in February of last year, and I started giving them 20,000 units daily, 10,000 in the morning and 10,000 at night. And within 4 to 8 weeks, within 6 to 8 weeks, we were able to bring their levels of vitamin D up to 80 to 100 nanograms per ml. Okay. This vitamin D levels, the proper levels of vitamin D, they say, there is a scale. Okay? From if you have 20 nanograms or below, you're very deficient, and 20 to 30 nanograms is insufficient, and 30 to 100 nanograms is sufficient levels of vitamin D, and 100 or above, they say it's defined as toxic. And if you ask me, the toxicity and vitamin D should not be uttered in the same sentence. Okay. So, see the thing if you look at, there are several studies which looked at this, the outcomes based on people's vitamin D levels. Okay. And on June 2nd of last year, there was an article published, and that just the conclusions of those articles are this. Okay, in populations where there are vitamin D deficient populations, if they are exposed to coronavirus, their fatality rate is 99%. So 99 out of 100 people died in that group. And if you look at the insufficient group, 20 to 30 nanograms per ml, okay, and the death rate in that is 88%, 88 out of 100. And if you look at the same data in the sufficient level from 30 to 100 nanograms per ml, the death rate, the fatality rate is 4%. So it makes you think, doesn't it? Okay, so vitamin D is such an important vitamin, an important nutrient, vital nutrient, and we have been completely neglecting this for such a long time. So how do we, where do we maintain, given this pandemic and given this current situation, how do we maintain our vitamin D levels? Okay, your doctors will tell you, okay, if it is at 30 nanograms per ml, you're fine, no problem at all. No, not so. Okay, we need to maintain our vitamin D levels around between 80 and 100 nanograms per ml. There was a time in India, a long time ago, when everybody was going out and working in the sun. According to one study, people's vitamin D levels were, on average, it was about 80 nanograms per ml. I think we need to come back to that as a society, okay, for us to be able to face these challenges. And we may face more challenges in the days to come, okay, bigger challenges than this COVID. Okay. So to be able to do that, we need to improve our nutrition. The olden days of eat anything and do whatever you want, and we will be okay. Though that paradigm is completely gone. It is put to rest by this newest pandemic that world is facing. So we have to be responsible in taking care of our nutrition properly. So all this. So let me bring it to a landing here. So how do we preserve, and what is the safe dose that we can take? Okay, if people are, this is what I've been recommending for the last year in India. If anybody is not affected with COVID, So start taking 1 capsule 2 times a day for 5 days, and 1 capsule once a day for 5 more days. So that is total 15 capsules of 60,000 units in 10 days. Okay? And that very quickly brings up the vitamin D levels to where they need to be. But you need to understand this quick correction, even though it makes the levels come up very quickly, the immune system may not follow. Means immune system has been dysfunctional for so long. Now this quick correction may not bring the immune system along so quickly. It will take time for the immune system to adapt to these new levels, because immune system has been is been rusting because vitamin D levels are too low. So once we bring up the vitamin D levels to a proper range, the immune system takes time for it to operate and to respond properly. Okay. And so once that happens, once that 10 days is passed, go to a weekly dosing. So weekly once of 60,000 units daily. Okay. And everybody who has followed that advice since last year and checked their vitamin D levels and maintained them in that range, and all of them, I'm happy to say all of them are completely, totally protected from the COVID in the first wave, and not only in the first wave, but the second wave as well. Okay. There are some churches which have done this, and one of the churches that I spoke at, Pastor Samuel Karmoji's church. Okay, there and this is his testimony. There are 7,000 members in his church, and I think last time when I spoke to him, he said there was 1 fatality in that church. So that says a lot about vitamin D supplementation and the potential for vitamin D to protect the large populations. So, and that is and we have replicated that among various populations, in several churches in Hyderabad, and here also several churches on Long Island say the same thing. And as I told you, that giving this dose, 20,000 units daily for about 6 to 8 weeks, has protected all our employees also during the first pandemic. Okay. And as you know, New York was the epicenter of this pandemic. So what we did was, and after that, about March timeframe, COVID cases started appearing in all our in our neighborhoods here. So what I did was, COVID patients don't have this, 6 to 8 weeks of time for vitamin D correction. So what we did is, I compressed that 8-week dosing into 5 days, and we started giving the same dose, the cumulative dose of 8 weeks into 5 days. So that is 50,000 units 4 times a day for 5 days for patients who are affected with COVID. And guess what? By God's grace, every one of the patients that we have applied that, and they have survived. Not only survived, they just and all their inflammatory markers within 1 day started improving. That was the start of my journey into in talking about this subject. Okay. So you all know, in July, I think May, June for last year, the COVID cases were going up rampantly, and that is when I started speaking. Okay. And I have a personal thing here too, and my sister and brother-in-law, both of them were affected with COVID in April of last year. Okay. And they were suffering, and they had severe symptoms and heart rates going up, and the saturations coming down, and dyspnea, all those things. And they were given the same dose, as I mentioned, and within 5 days, both of them completely recovered. And my nephew also, he had a heart condition, and he also totally recovered from this. So that is where we started, and I started talking about it, and was able to meet so many people, wonderful people like Thammudu Roop Kumar garu. Veelandarni kalavaniki, God has given me the privilege of meeting so many people. And this became a ministry, so to speak. The first wave, during the first wave, I was speaking almost twice a week. I'm on Rakshana TV and various other platforms. But I thought, okay, by come December, everything has died down. Okay, so we can rest. And then what happened? Everybody knows what happened after that. And Now it has been more busier than ever. I'm getting 10 times the calls than last year, 10 or more than 10 times the calls. So you know what, we need to, this is not a simple illness. This is an extremely complex illness. If our loved ones are infected with this, the safest place is their own home, not the hospital. People who are just going after hospital beds and panicking, okay, they are just giving up their lives. It's not like, oxygen saturation is going down and people are given oxygen, as though it is not as though oxygen is the cure for this. Okay, oxygen makes us feel better for a little while longer, but what is going on inside, all these immune reactions are continuing and compromising the lungs. So what we need to understand is, just putting somebody on oxygen, we are able to bring their saturations from 70s to 90s. Okay, 2 days later, their saturations will dip even below 70 on oxygen. What do we do then? Okay, we have to go to high pressure oxygen or high flow oxygen, and that also comes to an end. Okay? And this is the sad story that is unfolding in the hospitals everywhere in India. You must know this, and we all need to know this. Otherwise, it is very difficult to protect our loved ones, because we even the doctors and the best of care and best of equipment will not be able to save them. Okay, what we need to do is, we need to see, it has to be a team effort. It's not like just relegate our people, our loved ones, to the ICUs and connect them to these sophisticated machines, and which provide these readouts, and which we keep on going down and down and down and down, and there is nothing anybody can do. Their lungs are being filled with pneumonia, and patients are drowning in their own fluids. Okay, and how do we do this? And at home, if we have if we give proper dosing of vitamin D, and that suppresses the cytokine storm, and that protects the lungs. Once we have that, if we do have pneumonia, there are techniques like proning and chest physiotherapy, or this percussion that is properly applied, that can, and also giving mucolytics and to thin the secretions. These secretions in COVID become so thick, and they completely just start filling the lungs from the lower lobes. Okay? And if we place the patient in prone position and start applying chest physiotherapy, and they will be able to eliminate all those, and the chest areas, or the lower lobes that have been occupied by this thick secretions, thick mucus secretions, can be released, and patient will start feeling a lot better. So there are so many things. There are several tools that we can apply. One is the vitamin D, and the other one is the chest physiotherapy, or the deep breathing techniques. Okay, all these things can help. And once we go through this active phase of this illness, but that may last about 4 to 5 days, and if we can preserve the patient through this, we would have saved a person. Okay, so I want all of you to understand all these things. Okay, you may want to go back and listen to these things, or you can talk to either Roop Kumar Garu or any of the team members that are working in India. They will shed more light on how we can take care of our own people, our loved ones, right in our own homes. Okay, we don't need to just go after these hospital beds and take unnecessary overload of all the medications that are being given, and there is no proper basis for some of these treatments that are being given. Okay, having said that, yeah, is there a hope? Yeah, absolutely, there is hope. And and can we protect ourselves through this? Yes, and there is no question. Can we protect our loved ones through this? Yes, we can. Okay, and one thing I'd like to end with is Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14 says, I praise you, O God, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. If we look at all these things that I have just tried to briefly elucidate, and we cannot but praise God for the wonderful design He has put in our bodies, this immune system, which is, if it functions properly, and we will survive in this pandemic. If it does not function properly, our immune system can end up killing us and our loved ones. That is what it is. That is what it is all about. It is not the virus. It is our own immune system which is causing this massive damage. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you. Over to Pastor John.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. We want to all thank Dr. Bhanu Prasad Garu for sharing informative and knowledge on COVID-19, and may God continue to use you, Anna, as a great resource, and also may God help you to bring more people to out of the woods, and also may God be glorified through whatever the ministry that you're doing. And praise God for the informative information for all of us. Anna, we do have a few questions. I have posted some of them for you personally, and any one of you have any questions, please feel free to ask so that Anna can quickly answer those. And one of the question I have asked you is how much dosage of vitamin D3 we have to take. I think it is available here in US in the IUI form, and I think we have as you said also before, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, and 60,000 IUI, and how much quantity we have to take, how many per day we have to take, and are there any side effects for it, or how much we have to take so that it will come up to a place where it will fight against all the viruses, and it gives a good immunity to our body. And also I do have a question, and if you can go with this, and next question we can go for it.
Okay, so if we have about 6 to 8 weeks of time, then the best way to do it is, taking 10,000 units in the morning and 10,000 units in the evening. So 20,000 units for 6 to 8 weeks. That will, for most people, will bring the levels up to where I am recommending they need to be. So between 80 and 100 nanograms per ml. Okay? So, and if we are traveling, or if we are in a quick, if we are in a position where we need to quickly bring up these levels, then the doses that I suggested, and in Amazon there are these 50,000 unit vitamin D3 is available. So you can get those capsules and start taking, one capsule twice a day for the next 10 days. That is going to bring up the levels properly. And after that, you can go to 5,000 units in the morning and 5,000 units in the evening for the adults. And for kids, you can based on their weight. And I have a chart that PDF we can send that has the dosing for the children as well. Okay? And also for long-term supplementation, what I recommend is along with vitamin D and vitamin K2, they're synergistic with each other. They work in concert. Vitamin D is instrumental in calcium absorption, and vitamin K2 is instrumental in calcium transportation mechanism. So vitamin D2 brings in the calcium, and vitamin K2 tells the calcium where to go into the bones. So that is, for long-term supplementation, that is what I would recommend. And also along with vitamin D3, we need to supplement with magnesium as well. Okay, magnesium and vitamin D, they work in concert together. And various minerals, and we are all mineral deficient. Okay? And to our own detriment, we need to include proper mineral supplements as well. So good multivitamin, good multimineral, and vitamin D in proper levels, and vitamin K2. That's what I recommend. And also proper hydration is very important. Okay? And you asked me if there are any side effects. Yeah, that's what doctors are concerned about. Oh, vitamin D toxicity, and it can cause kidney damage, and it can cause, heart problems and other things. So, and if you look at Google, it will tell you, oh, what vitamin D toxicity is and how, this horrible, these all symptoms are. But there is no real basis for thinking about vitamin D toxicity, because it is very difficult to become toxic. And vitamin D unless you take, this 50 to 100,000 units, 50,000 to 1 lakh units daily for months to years. Okay, that is what the conclusion of one of the papers published by Mayo Clinic was. And also 100 or above is considered toxic according to the blood test reports. But if you look at the lifeguards who spend most of the time in summer in full sun, their levels through the middle of summer, they reach about 150 to 160 nanograms per ml. So naturally, so God does not make that kind of mistake. So, and also my levels are about more than 160, 170 nanograms per ml. Okay? So, we have not in the past year, we've been recommending this vitamin D. There are so many people who have, like Brother Rup Kumar Garu, they have taken vitamin D, and yes, their levels have increased quite rapidly. Okay, but none of them suffered any ill consequences. And also, I want to tell you, in the past 35 years or 40 years of scientific literature, nobody died of vitamin D toxicity. No one. But coronavirus has killed almost 3,500 people yesterday. Okay, in India alone. Okay? So that is something we can, we have to consider, because if we have life, we can deal with the toxicity, because the vitamin D toxicity, even if it were to occur, can be taken care of very easily. Okay? But so where is the logic here? Okay, so if we take 2 perfect kidneys, if we think about vitamin D toxicity and take 2 perfect kidneys and end up in the grave, is that better, or to live and probably deal with if it were to occur? I don't think in 5 days you are going to be toxic, okay, or you will not see any consequences. So later on, we are not suggesting these doses be taken years on end, for 5 days or 10 days until this crisis is passed, until you come out of this, and then go to maintenance doses, and then get your levels checked in 3 months or 6 months. Okay? And vitamin D requirement is individualized, highly individual, because if you have any inflammatory stress, you will use up your vitamin D stores. Okay, so you need to measure, get your vitamin D levels checked, and establish your own requirement, daily requirement, and maintain your levels.
Thank you, Anna. We do have one more question. Should we take vaccine, and what do you suggest? And also, once we take vaccine, do we need to take vitamin D supplements as well?
Okay, so that question, I cannot tell you whether to take it or not. There are so much data that is coming out, which is pointing to trouble with these vaccines. And even yesterday, there is a news article in the VAERS database, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System database. There is a sharp uptick of vitamin D adverse events. 118,000 adverse events have been reported as of yesterday. Okay? And also, if you look at Israel, not too long ago, a week ago, they were touting, okay, Israel is 50% vaccinated, and they're taking off all the masks. But the news of yesterday says that it is causing post-vaccine myocarditis, so inflammation in the heart muscle. Okay, people who have taken this vaccine are suffering from myocarditis, the inflammation of the heart muscle. They are investigating that. Okay, and also in India, we were told, this, when the vaccines came, vaccines were in the works, we were told, once we take the vaccine, we can open up the economy. We can no lockdowns, and we will not be affected. We can throw away our masks. Okay? But later, as people were getting vaccinated, and vaccinated people turning positive, and they're turning sick, they're becoming sick with COVID, the requirement, the understanding has changed, and the change is what we were saying. So they said, yeah, all the experts have said, yeah, we still have to wear masks, and maybe double masks, okay? Or we still have to have these lockdowns, or we still have to have social distancing. I feel, that is a little bothersome to me. And also the immunity, the humoral immunity that we get, that means antibody response. Once the antibody response comes, even after the wild virus exposure, in some people that humoral immunity is vanishing in 2 months, and people are so much so people are getting reinfected in 2 months. So, and considering all this, the humoral immunity that is acquired by taking the vaccine, that also has the durability of 2 months, according to some studies in the beginning, and later on they extended it to 6 months, and we don't know what. So how long it is that immunity is going to last. So if that were to be the case, so what do we do? Do we take another shot of this vaccine? Okay. And one thing that concerns me is there is no safety testing for this. It was all these things were approved under emergency use authorization. So what I want to tell you is, in India, okay, we dealt with 3 major strains last year. Okay? And now as of March 24th, there are 771 new variants that were isolated out of 10,900 samples. So where did all these things come from? Is we need to answer. We need to ask this question. Okay, are the vaccines forcing mutations in the virus? So if that is the case, all the people who are vaccinated, are they becoming the factories of new strains? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. This is, as inquisitive minds, we need to ask this question. Okay? And if that is the case, if there are 771 variants, and if the vaccine is developed for one variant, what protection is it going to afford us against these new variants that are coming into existence? Okay, so considering all that, I would say, and I would not take the vaccine.
అంటే మీరు తీసుకోలేదు కదా అన్న వ్యాక్సిన్?
నేను తీసుకోలేదు. I would not even consider.
Okay, that's good అన్న. Okay
అన్న, ఒక క్వశ్చన్ అన్న.
చెప్పండి.
యాక్చువల్ గా ఇంకొకళ్ళు చెప్పడం ఏంటంటే సెలీనియం ఆల్సో వి నీడ్ టు టేక్ అంటున్నారు. వాట్ ఈస్ ద రోల్ ఆఫ్ సెలీనియం అలాంగ్ విత్ D3?
Absolutely, selenium is a trace mineral. Selenium, copper, zinc, magnesium, manganese. All these things we need to supplement with. So selenium plays an important role in the immune system as well.
అంటే ఇవన్నీ కూడా సప్లిమెంట్స్ కదా? These are not the medicines.
No, these are supplements, and we used to get all these things in olden days, and in our modern agriculture and modern practices have depleted our foods from all these vital nutrients, vital minerals.
మరి సప్లిమెంట్ అన్నప్పుడు సైడ్ ఎఫెక్ట్స్ చాలా తక్కువ ఉంటాయి కదన్నా, మరి డాక్టర్స్ ఎందుకని దే డు నాట్ బిలీవ్ ఇన్?
You know what? That is another discussion altogether. Yes,
because we are unable to convince the doctors.
Yes,
here in India, even in the USA also.
Right. Yeah. That has been the biggest fight for the past 1 year. Even though the doctors are seeing, I've not been able to convince most of the doctors, but more and more doctors are seeing the light of the day. So they are coming over to this side.
Yes, Anna.
Sure, Anna. Anna, one more question.
Chart lo questions Anna.
Chart lo question undi inkokati. Could you please share info on what medication and dosage people can buy in India? And I think alage one more question for the kids. Kids అందరు ఇండోర్ లోనే ఉంటున్నారు కదా, అలాగే ఎలా వాళ్ళని మనం ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేయొచ్చు, కిడ్స్ కానీ టాడ్లర్స్ కానీ అది. అండ్ అలాగే మీకు ఏమైనా కాంటాక్ట్స్ ఏమైనా ఇండియాలో ఉన్నా సో దట్ దే కెన్ రీచ్ యువర్ రిసోర్సెస్ అవుట్. ఐ థింక్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మన రూప్ కుమార్ ఉన్నారు కదా ఇండియాలో, థింక్ రూప్ కుమార్ని కాంటాక్ట్ అవ్వచ్చు. అలాగే ఇంకా రాజమండ్రిలో ఇంకెవరు ఉన్నారన్నా?
Okay,
I'll send you contacts here in
India. Sure.
Yeah, Roop Kumar garu, I think we can send contact of brother Sudhakar Reddy garu. He is I think he's
send some
doing a great
contacts.
service. Yeah, great service in supplying vitamin D at a very discounted price, almost half, less than half the market price. So Sudhakar Reddy garu is a good contact to have.
Yes, sir.
అలాగే కిడ్స్ ని ఏ విధంగా ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేయొచ్చనా ఇండోర్ లో? I think
kids have to be supplemented. Everyone. Okay. See, the thing is, in the modern times, the problem with the major problem with children is the autoimmune disorders. Okay, and most of the autoimmune disorders, autoimmunity means the immune system that does not function well. It has its origin. All autoimmune disease has its origin in vitamin D deficiency. Okay, and we would do very well, in if we supplemented our kids also with proper levels of vitamin D and bring their levels up to 80 to 100 nanograms per ml. And for the record, all my children, their vitamin D levels are over 100. So.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has any more questions, quickly, please post in the group, or so that you can ask Anna, just as he is available right now. Any question, any kind of a question or anything, in next 1 or 2 minutes. Finally, I think if there are no questions, then I think I want to thank God and we'll pray and then we can close.
JP, అక్కడ బ్రదర్ సారెళ్ళ గారు, బ్రదర్ పాల్ సారెళ్ళ ఈజ్ ఆస్కింగ్ అబౌట్ డోసేజ్ ఆఫ్ D3 అడుగుతున్నారు. నేను మీకు ఒక షీట్ పెట్టాను చూడండి, లేటెస్ట్ షీట్ ఒకటి పెట్టాను మీకు, కోవిడ్ ప్రోటోకాల్ అని ఒక PDF షీట్ పెట్టాను, అది బ్రదర్స్ కి పంపించండి.
Yeah, sure. I will share in the WhatsApp group. I do have it. Think I will share all the dosages and all the things, point of contacts as well. I will share to the people. Alage brand antarana kontamandi, any brand meer suggest chestara?
As long as it is vitamin D3, that is cholecalciferol, any brand is works well. No problem.
Okay.
Moreover, JP, I sent you 2 contact numbers as a helpline for India.
Okay.
మేము రాత్రి we identified 2 numbers for helpline అన్నమాట. ఇండియాలో helpline కోసం అన్న భాను ప్రసాద్ అన్న ఏర్పరిచినటువంటి ఒక కోర్ గ్రూప్ ఉన్నారని చెప్పాను కదా, దే ఆర్ వర్కింగ్ ఫర్ కరోనా యాజ్ అ కరోనా రెస్క్యూ టీమ్. సో అందులో ఒక ఇద్దరిని 2 ఫోన్ నంబర్లు, at any time we can call them and we can ask suggestions or some medication levels అవన్నీ మాట్లాడొచ్చు వాళ్ళు. సో అవి 2 షేర్ చేశాను ఇండియా కోసం. అమెరికా అయితే డైరెక్ట్ గా అన్నతో మాట్లాడొచ్చు. ఐ థింక్ అన్న ఇంకా సమ్ అదర్ friends he may have.
Yeah, sure brother, thank you very much. I think ఇంకెవరికైనా ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉంటే ఏమైనా అడగండి. అండ్ బిఫోర్ దాట్ I just want to thank you very much Anna and as Dr. Bhanu Prasad Anna. I think thank you for your time and valuable information and the message that you have given to us. And also yeah, definitely, as you said, there is a hope, and there's no need to be worried, and to just build our immune system with the information that you have provided. And also we want to thank God for everything and all the resources that God has provided us. And Anna, actually finally,
one last question Anna, what is the diet we need to take during the medication?
Well, that is an excellent question. So for diet during this illness or during this pandemic or anything, is we need to take a diet that is not insulin provides, that does not generate insulin response. That means, less on carbohydrates, high in fats, and high in just moderate in proteins. Okay. So just eat a lot of ghee. Ghee is one of the best things that we can have, because it has the perfect combination of short to medium chain fatty acids, and that is wonderful for energy production. and also it has a lot of beneficial fatty acids, GLA and ALA and all these things, which are so wonderful for our brain development or for neural system development, and also for eggs. Okay, egg yolks they're loaded with rich nutrients. If you can get good pastured eggs, absolutely consume them as much as possible. So as adults, I think we should be practicing something called intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting will lead us to a point where we are insulin sensitive and not insulin resistant. Most of the features of modern lifestyle is, we all are insulin resistant, most of us. That is, insulin resistance is a doorway to the diabetes, and diabetes is a doorway to all kinds of degenerative disease. So I think the intermittent fasting with low carbs and high fats and good amount of protein will make us more sensitive and to insulin, and that will enable us to reduce our fasting insulin levels. Now, higher insulin levels are a problem. They cause all kinds of dysfunctions, metabolic dysfunction. So yeah. And intermittent fasting is good, and also only twice a day is good. And also, if you're not hungry, do not open your mouth. That is a good principle.
For heart patients, egg yolk తినకూడదు అని antaru kadana. What do you suggest?
That is one of the many things that we were told over the last 50-60 years. And if we look at it, and so egg yolks, we have to avoid egg yolks because we have to reduce the incidence of heart disease. I want to ask you a question. Honestly, in the past 50 years, has the heart disease gone up or down? Okay. So, and we have been avoiding all this. And I'll ask you one more question. We were told we have to avoid salt, okay, to control our blood pressure. Okay. And in our patients, what we see is doctors tell them, okay, avoid salt, and they start avoiding salt, and they are put on one medication today, and 4 months later they are on 3 different medications because they started avoiding salt. And salt, if it is a proper salt, like the salt that we used to get, kallupu, if it is that, it is very healthy. Okay. And there are studies by Johns Hopkins, one study by Johns Hopkins University, which implicated low sodium diets for heart dysfunction. So go figure. We've been following all the wrong things, low salt and low fat and all these things, and we are experiencing every disease that we are trying to avoid by doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, and one more question, Anna, final ga. And in India, is homeopathy medicine available to boost immunity?
It is possible. I'm not quite familiar with homeopathy. Is wonderful, but with respect to the immune system, all that I know is, vitamin D is like a master regulator and master commander of the immune system. And yeah, there may be wonderful things in homeopathy as well, which I would like to know.
Yeah.
నేను యాక్చువల్గా హోమియోపతి ద్వారా వెళ్ళానన్నా, బట్ హోమియోపతి ద్వారా వెళ్ళినప్పటికీ కూడా నాకు పాజిటివ్ వచ్చింది. పాజిటివ్ రాదని చెప్పట్లేదు, బట్ ఎనీ మెడికేషన్ వి గో త్రూ, దిస్ ఫుడ్ సప్లిమెంట్ వీ నీడ్ టు టేక్ టు బూస్ట్ అప్ అవర్ ఇమ్యూనిటీ. సో దట్స్ వాట్ భాను అన్న టెల్లింగ్ అనమాట. అంటే వాట్ ఎవర్ ద మెడికేషన్ యూ గో త్రూ, but D3 is very, very important for our immunity system. And so vitamin D helpful for diabetic patients and aduthnaranga.
Absolutely. Vitamin D will make you more insulin sensitive. Okay, not only diabetic patients and thyroid patients, and any disease process that we have, vitamin D deficiency is implicated. So yes, absolutely, you will definitely benefit from vitamin D correction in any of these disease states.
Suppose they are thyroid, as you mentioned, Anna, thyroid patients aithe ela deal cheyali? Endukante ikkada recent ga thyroid patient corona positive, she died she is about 21 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more and more young people are dying in the second wave than before. And during the first wave, we thought, okay, everybody thought it's okay, young people are not are immune to this, and this disease only affects 60-plus-year-olds. All those things have been proven as myths. There are 20-year-olds, but 20 to 30, 40-year-olds, they're dying by the droves in this pandemic.
Yes, sir.
And thyroid, you mentioned thyroid. Yeah, thyroid, in some thyroid patients who've gotten coronavirus, whom we have used high doses of vitamin D, later on their doctors have to cut down their thyroid medication because their thyroid started functioning a little better than before. All these things are just observational, they're anecdotal, but if you take these anecdotes and compare that against the massive amount of scientific literature that is available, there is a lot of evidence towards the vitamin D and its benefits for our health.
Brother Shekhar Babu is asking about how vitamin D helpful for autoimmune disease patients like pollen allergies.
Yeah, that's right. See, vitamin D, it modulates the immune responses. Okay, most of these pollen allergies. Okay, when you're suffering from allergy, what is it? You're suffering from this histamine reaction. Our histamine reaction, histamine is another one of the cytokines. So all these cytokines are being generated by your immune system. Okay, and if your immune system is functioning properly, it will have the discernment to what to generate when, and not like just as soon as we get exposed to the pollen, our immune system should not go haywire. And most of the people are very tolerant to all these things, and except some people, they suffer quite a bit. So immune dysfunction is rampant in these modern times, and vitamin D deficiency is at the root of it.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you very much for your valuable answers. And alage, I do have the recorded video also, and I will send it across for the people who want it. అయితే మనము ప్రార్థనతో మనము క్లోజ్ చేసుకుందాం. I request brother
before concluding JP, అన్న మాట్లాడిన TV9 లో తర్వాత డిఫరెంట్ ఏరియాస్ లో డిఫరెంట్ ఛానల్స్ లో అన్న మాట్లాడినటువంటి దాని అంటున్నాం వీడియోస్ కొన్ని ఉన్నాయి. దట్స్ ఎక్స్టెన్సివ్ గా చాలా విషయాలు మాట్లాడారు. ఈవెన్ వీ కెన్ బ్రౌజ్ దెమ్ టు హ్యావ్ సఫిషియంట్ నాలెడ్జ్ రిగార్డింగ్ D3 and how to support ourselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We can browse them and we can see them. We can go through them.
Sure. Yeah, that is a good little bit elaborate information we can gather from those videos.
I sent you some links also.
Yeah, sure.
Are they in YouTube, brother?
Yes, sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. I think alage మళ్ళీ ఇంకా మెసేజ్ ఇదే వినాలన్నా వినొచ్చు. I will send those links across. అయితే మన మధ్యలో ఉన్న బ్రదర్ రూప్ కుమార్ ప్రార్థన చేస్తే ముగించుకుందాం. Once again, thank you, Anna, for joining and giving us the information. Okay, అందరం ప్రార్థన చేసుకుందాం.
పరిశుద్ధుడా, ప్రేమ కలిగిన మా తండ్రి, మీకు వందనాలు, స్తుతులు, స్తోత్రాలు చెల్లిస్తున్నాము ప్రభువా. ముఖ్యంగా ప్రపంచం అంతటా కూడా ఒక ప్యాథటిక్ కండిషన్లోకి దిగజారిపోతూ ఉన్నప్పుడు ప్రభువా, మీరు ఒక ప్రొవిజన్ని మీరు ఏర్పాటు చేశారు ప్రభువా. మీకు వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తున్నాం, కృతజ్ఞతాస్తుతులు చెల్లిస్తున్నాం. అన్న ద్వారా సజెస్ట్ చేయబడినటువంటి ఈ వైటమిన్ సప్లిమెంట్ ద్వారా ప్రభా మేమందరం కూడా విమోచన పొందడానికి మాకు సహాయం చేయమని ప్రార్థిస్తున్నాం మా ప్రభు. ఈ సెషన్ మా గ్రూప్లో ఉన్నటువంటి సభ్యులందరికీ కూడా మేలుకరంగా ఉందని మేము నమ్ముతున్నాం మా ప్రభు. అన్నకి మీరు ఇచ్చినటువంటి లాట్ ఆఫ్ నాలెడ్జ్ని బట్టి మీకు వందనాలు. ఆయన రీసెర్చ్ అంతా కూడా దీని మీద ఎంతగానో చేసి మా ప్రభు మరి ప్రపంచాన్ని ముఖ్యంగా అనేక మంది విశ్వాసులు అవిశ్వాసులు ఇలాంటి పరిస్థితుల నుండి విడుదల పొందాలి అనేటువంటి ఉద్దేశంతో ఎంతో కన్సర్న్తో సాక్రిఫిషియల్గా ఆయన అమెరికా నుండి అన్ని దేశాలకు అందుబాటులో ఉండి పనిచేస్తూ ఉన్నారు. ప్రభా మేము ఆయన్ని ప్రత్యేకంగా ఆయన గురించి ప్రార్థన చేస్తా ఉన్నాం, ఆయన హెల్త్ గురించి ప్రార్థన చేస్తా ఉన్నాం. మా ప్రభా ఏంటండి డైలీ 3 hours పడుకుంటున్నారని మేము వింటా ఉన్నాం. మా ప్రభా మరి ఆయన హెల్త్ని మీరు కాపాడండి. అనేక మందికి నిజమైనటువంటి రిసోర్స్గా మీరు ఆ బిడ్డని మీరు వాడుకున్నందుకు మీకు వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ దేవతండ్రి, మరి మాకేమైనా ఇంకా సమస్యలు, ప్రశ్నలు, సందేహాలు ఉంటే కనుక వాటన్నిటినీ కూడా తండ్రి మేము క్లారిఫై చేసుకోవడానికి మాకు మంచి రిసోర్స్ ఇచ్చినందుకు మీకు వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ ప్రతి సందేహాన్ని నివృత్తి చేసుకోవడానికి సహాయం చేయమని ప్రార్థిస్తూ ఈ సెషన్ మా అందరికీ మీరు మేలుకరంగా ఉంచినందుకు మీకు వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ తండ్రి ప్రత్యేకంగా భానుప్రసాద్ అన్నకి మీరు ఇచ్చినటువంటి 6 బిడ్డలను బట్టి, అక్కను బట్టి మీ సన్నిధిలో ప్రార్థిస్తున్నాం. కుటుంబాన్ని అంతటినీ మీరు జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకోండి. మీ బిడ్డల్ని హైట్ పార్క్లో మీరు వర్ధిల్ల చేయమని ప్రార్థిస్తున్నాం. అమెరికాలో అనేక ప్రాంతాలకి మీరు ఆయన్ని బ్లెస్సింగ్గా ఉంచుకొని ఆయన ఇన్వాల్వ్ అయినటువంటి చర్చ్కి ప్రభావ మీరు బ్లెస్సింగ్గా ఉంచమని ప్రార్థిస్తూ కృతజ్ఞతాస్తులు చెల్లిస్తూ వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ ఈ గ్రూప్లో కూడి వచ్చిన ప్రతి ఒక్క సభ్యుడిని బట్టి మీకు వందనాలు చెల్లిస్తూ యేసు నామములో స్తుతిస్తూ ప్రార్థిస్తున్నాం తండ్రి.
ఆమేన్. ఆమేన్. బెనెడిక్షన్ ఇస్తున్నాను. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord, everyone. Thank you, Anna, once again. And thank you, Brother Kumar. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And see you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
ఇక్కడ వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు ఉంటారు